And we are just minutes away now from Governor Brad Little's State of the State address. The House of Representatives is where this will be held. It's a joint session of the Senate and the House for the governor's address. They're all standing up now as we wait for the governor to arrive. Let's check in up next. There he is as we speak. Our live view from the rotunda looking into the chambers of the House of Representatives right now. You can see in the background the Lieutenant Governor on the far right, Scott Bedke, the Speaker of the House, Mike Moyle, and to his right, Senate President Pro Tem Chuck Winder welcoming the governor into the state legislature for the kickoff of this legislative session. The governor actually a little bit ahead of schedule as the leadership from the two sides have gone down to the second floor where the governor's office is to escort him up to the chambers. Let's go back to Andrew and Joe right now live in the rotunda for a quick check-in before the governor begins his speech.
Yeah, we just watched the governor walk through the rotunda, and he, along with legislative leadership, are walking through the House of Representatives right now. And Andrew, the governor, he came by, he said good morning to us. He said, "Governor, you have any plans for the day?" And he looks down at his watch. He said he had something at 1 p.m., so we'll keep an eye on what that is.
Yeah, I have a feeling he's probably going to be addressing the entire state, Joe.
Yes.
So, yeah, his sense of humor certainly hasn't faded, but he certainly has some business to do on top of that.
Yeah, so right now we're kind of getting through some of the the things you got to get through, dotting the I's, crossing the T's. Of course, this is kicking off a brand new legislature. So we heard some applause. You imagine that's probably for the new lawmakers that are just beginning their new adventure here today. Of course, you have men like Governor Brad Little that have done it all. I mean, he started in this building, before he was even a lawmaker. I know he's been in here with his family for many years now. Of course, he's the governor of the state of Idaho. It's those types of paths, it's those types of adventures that begin on a day like today. There's unlimited potential. It's a clean slate. There's a lot of new lawmakers here, and we'll hear what the governor's vision for the state is, though.
Yeah, a lot of different directions he could go. I know education's one that would be hard-pressed to miss. We know that's been a priority for him for a long time. Investments in infrastructure. We know he cleared 1/3 of backlogged bridges a year ago. I know that's another priority for him, so I imagine a continuation.
You are watching a KTVB News Group special presentation. You are watching a KTVB News Group special presentation. The Idaho State of the State address given by Governor Brad Little.
Good afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Doug Petcash. Governor Brad Little will be giving his State of the State address very shortly. He has already entered the House chambers for this joint session of the Senate and House to kick off the 67th Idaho Legislature's first session of the legislative session, I should say. It's the governor's opportunity to lay out his legislative and budget priorities for 2023. Let's take a live look in right now as he is walking in to greet some of the leadership and other representatives and office holders and making his way to the rostrum where he will begin his State of the State address, this being his first one of his second term after being elected by the voters once again in November. Let's listen in now as he gets ready to begin his speech.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. There you go.
House will come to order. Governor, we look forward to your words.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, Mr. Pro Tem, Mr. President, honored legislators, my fellow constitutional officers, Mr. Chief Justice and members of the judiciary, my family, friends, and my fellow Idahoans. One of my friends told me I used one word more than any other over the last 4 years. No, not necessarily one of those words I might hear around the ranch. The word historic. Like any good politician, I proudly use this powerful word as much as possible over the last little bit. But, my friend said, historic is the only word that captures what we have accomplished for Idahoans together. And he's right. Our state's success has been nothing short of extraordinary. Less than 3 years ago, an unpredictable storm arose, threatening to weaken us and make us lose sight of our destination. Thankfully, we stayed on course. Throughout these turbulent few years, we never lost our direction because we always put Idaho first. And now, Idaho is first or near first in just about every national ranking of economic strength. Budget stability, good government. We didn't just weather the storm, we thrive. Folks, our success did not happen by accident. What we're doing is working, and I'm prepared to work with all of you to accelerate our pace. Continue to leading the country by putting Idaho first. The People's House today is full of energy, enthusiasm, and sincere motivation to get things done. I want to congratulate you, our legislators, those new to the process, and those of you that have been around for a while. I'm very excited to work with all of you, and I thank you for your genuine desire to serve the people of Idaho. I also want to congratulate all the legislators and leadership, especially my good friend and colleague for many years, our and your new Speaker, Mike Moyle. I know that working together with Speaker Moyle, Pro Tem Chuck Winder, and all of you, my legislative partners, we will do more historic things for the state of Idaho. We also have some new constitutional officers. Superintendent of Public Instruction Debbie Critchfield and her husband Dave, Attorney General Raúl Labrador and his wife Bedke, Secretary of State Phil McGrane and his wife Angela, and of course, our new Lieutenant Governor, Scott Bedke, and his wife, Sarah. Scott, I'm reassured knowing that anytime I leave the state for the next 4 years, the most unexpected thing you'll do is give a riveting speech on water adjudication. Please join me again in congratulating them and everyone who earned the confidence of voters this last November. I also want to acknowledge the person in my life who grounds me and reinforces family values every day, our First Lady, Teresa. Besides always giving a better speech than I do, you've always prioritized the things that matter most, and thank you, and I love you very much. To the people of Idaho, I'm so humbled and grateful that you trusted me to be your governor for the next 4 years. It's been the greatest honor of my life to serve and help chart a course for our great state. Thank you. After any election, the political wonks, including myself, dive deep into the results. And one thing on the ballot that was more popular than any contested race, what was it? It was the people's vote on education and tax relief. 80%, 4 out of 5 voters, approve of what we achieved in the 2022 extraordinary session last September. We recognized the financial emergency existing and facing our Idaho families and schools as they grapple with the impacts of 40-year high inflation. We used our projected budget surplus to provide every Idahoan with immediate tax rebate and passed a new flat income tax so Idahoans could keep more of their hard-earned money moving forward. We also put the single largest ongoing investment ever into Idaho education, $330 million for public schools and $80 million for in-demand career training. The people's vote affirming tax relief and our education investments passed in every single county, every single city, and every single legislative district. The overwhelming support of our plan means unmistakably Idahoans expect us to support public schools. Idahoans spoke loud and clear with their votes, and I will sheepishly admit, I did check the ballot results in Emmett. Would you believe that funding education and cutting taxes was more popular than their hometown governor? Go figure. It's one of those healthy reminders that what we do here is far more important than any one of us, and the work we do will outlive all of us. Let's focus on the big things. Let's spend our time and energy to improve the lives of Idahoans for generations to come. With the winds at our back and a strong mandate from every corner of Idaho, let's work together to translate the people's vote into action by making, dare I say, historic investments in education a reality. Here's what else I took from the election. Idahoans like being first in economic momentum, revenue growth, job growth, responsible government, and cutting red tape. Idahoans like being a top 10 state for economic outlook and strong fiscal policy. Idahoans like a flourishing economy, historic tax relief, and record education investments. Plain and simple, the people of Idaho have given us a mandate to stay on course, put Idaho first, continue the path of prosperity, and keep investing in education. To the people of Idaho, we are listening, and we will continue to deliver. We are not backing down on education. We are doubling down on education. The budget and policy recommendations I'm mapping out today deliver on that mandate given to us by the people of Idaho. My plan, called Idaho First, The first in the plan is education. 4 years ago, I stated my goal is to make Idaho a place where we all can thrive and where our children and grandchildren choose to stay, and for those that left, choose to return. Expanding economic opportunities are providing jobs for our kids. And now we need to foster better jobs and higher incomes and a better quality of life that we can all be proud of. I'm a businessman and a family man, and I look at every issue through the lens of what our businesses and our families need to prosper. We all benefit from a strong economy, one where businesses can offer rewarding careers and opportunities that lead to strong families and strong communities. As I travel the state and listen to employers about their challenges, workforce always tops the list. We've made huge progress in connecting employers with resources to train employees. And my Idaho First plan gets even more skilled workers through their doors. I'm very proud to announce my budget provides access to a scholarship of $8,500 starting next year to every graduating Idaho student in Idaho to attend an Idaho university, community college, career technical, or workforce training program of their choice. Never have we provided a catalyst of this magnitude for students to go on in whatever way suits them. There are many pathways to success in Idaho's economy, and all pathways deserve our support. For some students, it means getting their CDL, becoming a lineman, or pursuing welding. For others, it's engineering, teaching, healthcare, or business. No matter what path a student chooses, we are making it easier for them to get the advanced training they need to propel themselves and Idaho's economy forward. The Idaho Launch Scholarship will be the single largest investment in career, technical, and workforce education in state history. We want Idaho students brought up in Idaho schools working at Idaho jobs. This past fall, the student body presidents at College of Western Idaho, Boise State University, Lewis Clark State College, and the University of Idaho wrote an article on the need to invest directly in our students and our future workforce. The students, Adam Jones from Emmett, Tanner McLean from Middleton, and Caden Massey from Kamihai, and Flora Koenig from Boise said, quote, "Now more than ever, we can't afford for our students to leave Idaho. A statewide scholarship program will not only benefit Idaho students, but will help keep our economy growing and competitive for the next generation. It is time to keep Idaho's future in Idaho." I don't know about you, but I think these students nailed it. We have them with us here today. Adam, Tanner, Caden, and Flora, please stand up so we can recognize them. A person's foundation for success starts very young, and it starts in the home. Education of our children will always rest first and foremost with the family. Schools are partners with parents, and that is why we are making historic investments in both families and schools. Where parents are heavily involved in their child's school and education, we see better academic performance. In fact, Idaho is first in the nation for overall return on investment for education spending, which speaks to the dedication of Idaho families to prepare their children for productive learning every single day. We're also third in the nation for education freedom. Measures that include spending, school choice, transparency, and regulations. Whether it's a traditional public school, public charter schools, public magnet schools, private schools, online academies, or homeschooling. hundreds of schooling options are available to Idaho families. In fact, Idaho is one of only a handful of states with the fewest restrictions on allowing parents to send their child to any public school they wish. And we are a top 10 state for the number of students enrolled in public charter schools. To further reinforce parents' role as the primary decision makers in their children's education, my Idaho First plan makes permanent the Empowering Parents Grant Program. The grants help families take charge of tools for their children's education. Things like computers, software, instructional materials, and tutoring. These resources help children progress outside of the classroom. To date, we've served tens of thousands of students with these grants. The Empowering Parents grants are effective and popular and worthy of a continued investment. Most importantly, it keeps parents where they should be in the driver's seat of their children's education. The Idaho Constitution recognizes the endurance of our Republican form of government depends upon an educated, intelligent people. The founders spelled out the duty to, quote, establish and maintain a general, uniform, and thorough system of public, free, common schools. As elected leaders, we promise to uphold this contract with the people when we take the oath of office. Our commitment to public schools is both our constitutional obligation and it's our moral obligation. My Idaho First plan delivers on both the constitutional mandate and the mandate from the voters of Idaho by investing in our public schools. Here with us today, we have some fourth graders and fifth graders from Centennial Elementary School in Nampa and their teacher, Jamie Hazing. Kids, please wave at us. Thank you for being here. What better way to strengthen our schools than to invest in the people on the front lines of education, our teachers? I want our students here today to clap twice if you agree with what I'm saying. Students, are you ready? Recess is the best part of the day. Students, clap twice if you agree. Just getting warmed up. Okay, here we go. Teachers get to work early so they can be prepared when their students arrive. Students, clap twice if you agree. Teachers are adapting all day long to a variety of learning styles and individual needs. Clap twice if you agree. Teachers spend their evenings and weekends grading papers and relying on parents and students. Clap twice if you agree. Best of all, teachers are passionate about preparing students for eventual careers and making them feel safe and supported. Clap twice if you agree. Great job, you guys. Attention, there might be an opportunity to you to participate also. Our students and their families deserve quality teachers who are respected and compensated competitively. Great teachers, not yet. Great teachers can motivate and change the trajectory of a student's life. That's why my plan boosts starting teacher pay yet again, finally targeting Idaho in the top 10 state for starting teacher pay. When I started this job 4 years ago, Idaho was 41st in the country for starting teacher pay. In 4 short years, we will have catapulted starting teacher pay in Idaho from the bottom 10 to the top 10. We are also going to grow the salaries of all teachers, including the most experienced ones, to ensure students have the classroom support they need. What does this mean for the average teacher? It means a $6,300 pay raise. When we show teachers we support them, we're showing families their child education is our priority. I'm also proud that we've made great advances in my top education priority over the last 4 years, literacy. Learning to read from a young age is the best foundation for learning later on and makes our investments worthwhile. Since I took office, we have increased literacy funding 5-fold. Local school districts determine how best to deploy the resources. Everything from expanding kindergarten, reading coaches, reduced class sizes, or summer reading programs. This past fall, reading scores for all kindergarten through 3rd grade teachers are the highest in years, with impressive gains among our youngest learners. The scores are steadily increasing. And while we have more work to do, the results are encouraging. They show we are headed in the right direction. We must continue to prepare our younger generation with the education skills and lifelong passion for learning. That's why we're putting Idaho first and education first. You know, most people want the same things: health, safety, high quality of life, freedom to choose their own path, strong schools, an abundance of rewarding, reliable career opportunities, and to keep more of their hard-earned money. Our ability to deliver on these things, or at least not stand in the way of them happening, determines our fate. We've all seen states that continually fail, and as a result, people don't want to live there. In fact, I've heard some suggest that California Governor Gavin Newsom is really Idaho's Realtor of the Year. Clap twice if you agree. Pretty impressive. But in Idaho, we're striking the right balance between investing in key critical areas like our schools and giving back more of Idahoans' money. In just 3 years, we've given back more than ever before in Idaho history, a whopping $2.7 billion to Idaho citizens and businesses. No other state in the country has given more tax relief per capita than Idaho. And we're not done yet. We deployed $2.7 billion in immediate tax relief in 4 ways: slashing payroll taxes for small businesses, increasing the grocery tax credit, giving Idahoans the largest ever reimbursement of their property taxes in 2020, and of course, back-to-back-to-back income tax rebates and back-to-back-to-back tax cuts for both personal income and corporate income tax. The tax rebates help thousands of small businesses across our state, as well as senior citizens on fixed income, providing relief from crushing inflation, where everything from food to fuel was skyrocketing. Our commitment to cutting taxes doesn't just start and end with one-time relief. We also cut back Idahoans' ongoing tax burden by more than $650 million. We took the income tax from 6 brackets down to 1 and created a fair, predictable, and lower flat income tax once and for all. Folks, what we're doing is working. Consider this: the Tax Foundation ranks states on their business tax climate. It's a useful barometer of a state's competitiveness to attract and retain businesses. In just 4 years, we've risen 6 spots, and that's even before accounting for the income tax reduction we adopted in last year's special session. Cutting taxes keeps our business climate competitive, allows Idahoans to keep more of what they earn, and it is just the right thing to do. One area where we really shine may surprise you. The Tax Foundation ranks Idaho as having the 3rd lowest property taxes in the country. So why does that feel surprising to so many? When your property tax bill arrives, you see it all at once. It's not hidden in each paycheck. It's not pennies on the dollar on every purchase you make. You get a bill for the full amount, and I understand why many Idahoans struggling under the weight of record inflation get sticker shock when the bill from local government arrives. The reality is no property taxes are paid to state government. No state official in this room can decide what local property taxes will be. Local governments alone set their budgets. However, some of the parameters around local property taxes are set in state law, like the circuit breaker. So people turn to state leaders in this room for answers. Idahoans want relief from rising property taxes, and we hear them. My Idaho First plan puts another $120 million towards property tax relief to answer the call for help from Idahoans. There is no doubt Idaho's tremendous pace of growth is putting a strain on services at the local level, which increases the potential to drive up your local property taxes. But too often, we are simply shifting burdens across taxpayers. We should be addressing the needs head on. Let's work on better ways to facilitate growth, paying for growth, and give local governments the tools they need to keep taxes low. How? By continuing to make long-range strategic investments in roads, water, and other key areas to maintain our high quality of life. The fact is, investing in local infrastructure is property tax relief. Over the past 2 years, we've made the biggest investments ever in our most precious resource, water. When we're investing in drinking water and wastewater infrastructure, we saved Idaho's citizens and local taxes or fees what they would otherwise pay in property taxes to cover those improvements. Now I'm proposing more investments in water quantity and water quality infrastructure, not only to reduce the burden on local property taxes, but also to secure abundant clean water for the years to come. Investing in local roads and bridges is property tax relief. Last year, we put nearly $500 million into local roads, bridges, and airports. We took a major bite out of the backlog of deficient bridges that local governments have been struggling for years to repair. And we did it without raising taxes or fees. That buys us not just property tax relief, but safer roads, less drive time, and less congestion. Now I'm proposing even more for local bridges and new ongoing funding for transportation safety and capacity to build on our success. We will continue to keep taxes low, but we must do responsibly. We all see the flashing red lights in the economy. Simply put, Washington, D.C. is driving America towards an economic cliff and seemingly pushing down on the gas. Perhaps never has Lieutenant Governor Bedke's grandfather's word rung true. Quote, "It won't be the bad years that put you out of business. It's what you do in the good years that sets you up for either failure or success." We must be prudent. We must prepare for the impending economic downturn. And now, more than ever, we must make wise decisions that stand the test of time. We can't cut beyond the level of services Idahoans demand, and we must not use our one-time surplus for wasteful spending. Given the economic volatility on the near horizon, this may be our one last shot in the near future to make significant tax cuts that will sustain a balanced budget over time. Let's work together, unlock our creativity, put these $120 million of property tax relief into the highest and best use. We're also making a difference with our investments in safe and healthy communities. We're on track to advance all of the recommendations from our historic 3-branch Behavioral Health Council. And this year, my Idaho First plan does even more to improve resources for troubled youth and mental health crises, We're going to make long-term investments in behavioral health services more accessible to our neediest neighbors, and add more doctors for rural Idaho and more healthcare workers overall. And my Idaho First plan backs the blue again, adding a 10% pay raise for our brave and dedicated law enforcement officers. What does this mean to your average state trooper? It means a $6,000 raise. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. While other places seek to defund the police, here in Idaho, we defend the police. Our men and women in law enforcement work tirelessly to help keep us safe, many times confronting the most heinous side of humanity. This past fall, 4 young lives were ended in one of the worst crimes in our state and our nation have ever seen. Ethan, Kaylee, Xana, and Maddie were brutally murdered in a home near the University of Idaho campus. The loss of these incredible people is felt exponentially, and we will never forget them. Amen. We will vigorously seek justice for the victims and the many loved ones they leave behind. I ask everyone now to please pause for a moment of silence and prayer for them. Thank you. Our law enforcement heroes handle this loss with professionalism, and they routinely encounter dangerous and difficult situations to keep us safe, especially when it comes to fentanyl. We are losing more and more young lives to the most potent and deadliest drug our society has faced, fentanyl. It's 50 times more potent than heroin, 100 times more potent than morphine, and hard to detect. Fentanyl is now the leading cause of death for American adults under age 50. Michael Stabell, a 15-year-old from Coeur d'Alene, was another young Idahoan with a bright future, whose promising life was cut short. Michael's tragically lost his life when he took a pill he thought was a pain reliever, but came from an unknown source. The pill contained a lethal trace of fentanyl, as small as a grain of salt, killing him almost instantly. Michael's mom and dad, Jennifer and Frank, are here with us today. Jennifer and Frank, we're so sorry for your loss and thank you for being here. They described their only child as their miracle baby and a boy who loved the outdoors and his family dearly. We are now taking steps to protect our youth from fentanyl. All of these steps grew out of our Operation Esto Perpetua initiative last year. To root out this growing problem, I called for the development of a new statewide interdiction team at the Idaho State Police. In addition, enhanced testing and training and a new educational awareness campaign we just launched will help. Our campaign is called All It Takes, and it launched last week at fentanyltakesall.org. It will feature Michael's story and the stories of many other young Idahoans who have lost their lives to accidental fentanyl poisoning. We aim to inform our youth about the dangers of fentanyl, its accessibility, its potency, and its ability to take everything from you and your loved ones, as it did with the Stabells. I have seen for myself how the Mexican drug cartels control the access into our country under the current administration. The vast majority of illicit drugs in Idaho, including fentanyl, are sourced in Mexico. We will not relent in our efforts to end the supply of fentanyl by continuing to work with our states to the south and helping to secure our border. In 2021, the state of Arizona called for support in controlling the chaos at the border. I sent a team of drug interdiction specialists with ISP to help. I'm pleased to announce that I'm sending a team back to the border. They will hone their skills and return with even better knowledge to train police in our state on the best ways to get fentanyl off our street. Colonel Ked Wills and a few of our state police are here with us today, including Sergeant Darren Gilbertson, Sergeant Chris Cotterell, Trooper Mitch Howard. Can you gentlemen please stand? Our law enforcement, active military, and veterans all deserve our gratitude for their service and commitment. Thank you. It's easy to be cynical about government when you see what's happening in Washington, D.C. and other dysfunctional states around the country. But it's also easy to be inspired by the real difference we are making in Idaho when we put Idaho first. Focusing on schools, tax relief, safe communities, strategic investments, and good government. Folks, after years of being around the political process, I've learned that politics can complicate otherwise pretty simple concepts. There's nothing complicated about our state's success. There's nothing complicated about how to keep our success going. Idaho first. Listen to the people. Stay on course. Keep the big picture in focus and don't lose our direction. Concentrate on what matters way beyond our time here. Double down on our support for schools and tax relief and continue key investments to keep up with growth and make our communities safe. It's that simple. I know you're motivated to get things done, and I am too. I'm grateful for our partnership. We will put our trust in God, and together we will get our work done efficiently and transparently, focusing on things that matter. The people of Idaho expect us to work together, and working together has always been the only way to get historic things done. Thank you, and God bless.
Governor Brad Little wrapping up his State of the State address, his first of his second term being the chief executive of the state of Idaho. The speech was 36 minutes long, in which he outlined and unveiled his plan for the upcoming year, which you heard him call Idaho First, and trying to make Idaho first in many different categories. And the things that he really focused on today were education, property tax reform, public safety, and health. Just to break down some of the budget priorities that he also unveiled, and there were more specifics that came out alongside with the State of the State address. But the governor talked about the $410 million that the legislature approved during a special legislative session in September. That was part of that $1.6 billion state budget surplus that lawmakers decided where to put money. Now, they did not dedicate at that time where the $410 million should go for education. That's going to be up to the legislature. But today, the governor outlined where he would like to see it go. And right now, let's go live to the State House with Joe and the governor.
Well, Doug, the governor wanted me to let you know that he thinks he did a good job. But let me ask the governor. Governor Little, you had a lot of big ideas here. What was your, topic that you're most passionate about of what you just presented?
Oh, education. It's pretty simple.
Your big Idaho Launch program, you're going to give $8,500 possible scholarships to Idaho high schoolers who are graduating. Why do you think this will make a difference?
Well, we've always struggled with our go-on rate, but as the basically business life, the whole world gets more complicated, everybody has to skill up. And so just graduating from high school and starting without some kind of credential, some kind of skill, you just got this headwind all of life. And the more we can get people skilled up, the less headwinds everybody has and the more capable everybody is to eventually retire comfortably right here in Idaho.
We heard about raises for Idaho teachers and Idaho law enforcement. What do those two fields have in common that you think both of those fields deserve raises?
Well, I think if to people of Idaho, education and public safety is the most important thing. And Those are, and we're also going to give other raises to other people, but those are the two that probably stand out the most.
As you highlighted, property tax can be very complicated. Work needs to be done at the local level. There are some levers that can be pulled at the state level. You have $120 million laid out. What do you think in terms of actual difference for Idahoans that $120 million can do?
Well, the legislature, they write the tax law, and I am more than excited to participate with them. But, you know, every community is a little different. Fast growing, slow growing, resort, rural. So we got to do a tax thing that helps everybody.
Do you think back to your first State of the State 4 years ago, now that you start a second term, and what tone, I guess, difference would you find today compared to your first one?
Well, you know, we got a track record, and we talk about our track record. We're excited about that. So there's, you know, there was a lot of questions, but right now, our past is prologue, and what we've done in the past, we've had such great success, gives you something to build on. You got momentum going forward.
Of course, you've sat in there as a lawmaker, and now you find yourself as the governor of the state of Idaho. With so many new faces in the Senate and the House, what are your expectations for this legislature? We know the way it went last year, but now we're moving on.
Well, we're going to meet with them, roll up our sleeves, talk to them, listen to them. You know, they just had to listen to me for 38 minutes or 40 minutes. Now I'm going to listen to them about what we can do to get things done.
And your Lieutenant Governor, Scott Bedke, we heard like a definite reference to him with the water law. Of course, when you were the Lieutenant Governor for Governor Otter, education was the big deal. Now here as governor, you're still championing education. How far does your relationship go with Scott Bedke in terms of pushing for water rights and water conversations?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of things besides water. You know, my relationship with Superintendent Critchfield on education, obviously the other constitutional officers on their areas of where they have authority and responsibility. But you know, we're gonna work with everybody. We got this momentum. We don't want to lose it. We want to take advantage of it and keep going forward.
Final question, then I'll let you get over to work. Of course, you talked about $1 billion investment in infrastructure, and there's a lot of spending ideas out there. Of course, as you also talked about, economic experts are looking at the possibility of recession. You say this is the time to make major investments. If not now, when? How confident are you about these investments into infrastructure and the difference they could make?
Well, as long as we got money in the bank, we're taking care of our unmet maintenance, we're not ongoing increase in spending. As long as we're doing all those things, then if the economy slows down, we're better shape than everybody else.
I lied. One more question to you. You have the school kids out there today. When the school kids are looking up at you and you're talking about education, you're talking about the future of Idaho, what's going through your head in terms of creating a state for them to be in?
Well, you know, life's complicated. And these kids are way more complicated. You know, you got social media, you got all these other issues. We need to support those kids and support their teachers so that those challenges that those kids have, we can get them educated, get them very concerned about lifelong living and building the skill set so they'll be happy Idahoans.
Governor Brad Little, thank you so much for your time. We'll be hearing more from the governor coming up. He actually has some press availability that he'll have with the media. So all the questions I didn't get to, of course, I didn't get to touch every topic, Doug. We will be getting to that. So for right now, we're going to send it back to Doug. In the meantime, I know that our Andrew Bartline is efforting some interviews with legislative leaders. So Andrew and I here for the next 15 minutes or so, we'll have some live interviews. But real quickly, Doug, we'll send it back to you for a quick recap.
Yeah, Joe, let's talk about some of those education priorities. When you asked him right off the bat, you said, what's your top priority? Education. He's been saying that since his campaign for his first term, as he mentioned also. But the funding for the schools and the things that he would like to do include, as Joe talked about, raising starting teacher pay here in Idaho to $47,477. The governor says that would put Idaho in the top 10 for states with starting teacher pay. He's also proposing average raises for all teachers of $6,359. Also raises for classified staff. He says he wants to acknowledge the importance that they play in our public schools across the state. Folks like paraprofessionals, custodians, bus drivers, cafeteria workers. Also, he wants to give $52 million, a boost in discretionary funding for schools that can help them pay for things that can help also reduce property taxes. And on the higher education side of it, not so much funding directly to our universities and community colleges, but for students to go on. And that is the $80 million for building a skilled workforce by providing $8,500 scholarships for qualifying high school grads for higher education at Idaho universities, colleges, trade schools, and other opportunities for higher education. Now, the governor also focusing largely or a lot on education, but he also listed other budget priorities in his State of the State address, including improving bridges, airports, and pedestrian projects with $245 million investment in infrastructure, $120 million for property tax relief that you heard Joe ask the governor about. Also focusing on public safety here in Idaho, proposing a 10% raise for Idaho State Police troopers. And for the average trooper, that would be about a $6,000 annual raise. He also wants $150 million for state water projects and $24 million for a 26-bed mental health facility here in Idaho. Let's go back now live to the Idaho State House, where our Andrew Bartline is standing by with an interview. Andrew?
Yeah, that's right, Doug. I'm here with Senate Minority Leader Senator Melissa Wintrow. Talk with us. What was your initial reaction, what you heard from the governor today? I know there's a couple topics. What stood out to you? What mattered most to you? What did you like hearing today?
I really loved hearing the commitment to education and the teacher pay piece, that real investment in our teachers. He really recognizes the complexity of what they're doing, the hard work, and I think that was foremost thing that I really love to hear is that investment in education, our teachers and our workforce, and that direct student scholarship for going on to make sure that students are incentivized to go on to higher ed or a technical education. Absolutely right on target.
There's a lot of different things and how they will connect. Property taxes is one of them. He talks about investing in infrastructure, and that by proxy should help with local property taxes. And of course, you're the state government. You guys don't control those local property taxes. But we have talked with lawmakers on both sides of the aisle that there is interest in property tax relief. But it sounds like there's not a specific plan for it, just that there's interest and there's money set aside. Do you have an idea what you would like to see happen?
Well, you're exactly right. I hope that we will discuss that and it'll be a top priority because people are struggling and they're suffering right now. And what the governor said is that we certainly don't impact, we don't set the local budgets, but we impact them greatly. And as he has said, if we actually pay down the debt and other things, and we actually are paying the bills in other areas, it relieves the burden on local government, so then they can actually reduce that need there on their local citizens. And if that $120 million he's talking about, maybe that could go towards some of our facilities needs and so forth to try to relieve some of that pressure. But boy, I am really excited about having that conversation. I know all of our state is happy about that. So yeah, ready to roll up our sleeves.
And the governor's been big about talking about being fiscally conservative, and that's led to a large surplus, $1.5 billion. And it looks like there's interest on the governor of putting $1 billion into infrastructure that could potentially impact what we were talking about, those property taxes. What are your thoughts on that, having a large surplus, a big one-time investment? What was your reaction?
Well, I think we are certainly well overdue for that infrastructure investment. We've seen bridges crumbling. We've seen some catastrophes recently, so I think that infrastructure investment is right on point and is absolutely necessary, especially to support businesses and for our recreation needs.
It looks like there was a lot today we heard from the governor that both sides can agree on. Is there something that you felt was missing, something you wanted to address, a priority of your own heading into the session?
Well, I think it's important to recognize that we've kind of dug ourselves a hole, and that's why now we're starting to dig out and using what we call as a surplus. It's really, we set budgets, and those are about values and priorities, and they're kind of arbitrary. So I'm glad to see that we're focusing on the excess revenue and how to reinvest it in the people and reinvest it in our state and not try to, sock it away again and not utilize it, because people really need it right now.
Last question before I let you go and get to work. A lot of new faces in this building. You've been a staple here at the State House. How are you feeling going into it? Joe and I were joking, kind of like first day of school vibes a little bit. What's your feeling?
I don't think I've ever been more nervous. However, I think it's important to follow the governor's lead on that. And he kept talking about rolling up our sleeves. And we, even in the Senate before we came over today, we talked about the duty that we all have to our constituents who elected us to get work done, to put the nonsense aside. Picture is the big picture, and how do we help people, not some of these issues that we know are divisive, extreme, and harm our citizens.
Seems that there's a lot to agree on today from the speech.
I think so.
Well, I appreciate it. Senator Wintrow, I'll let you get back to work. Doug, I'll throw it back over to you.
Well, Andrew, from these interviews, it sounds like there's going to be a lot of sleeves that are rolled up at the Idaho State Legislature this year. A lot of work to be done, a lot of decisions to be made about funding after the historic state budget surplus, but also, of course, there's new tax money coming in, and the plan the governor laid out, of course, involves some of that. Again, he unveiled what he's calling his Idaho First plan today, and the first priority, that has been his first priority since he ran for office the first time around, and that is his plan for education. Here is what he said about that in his speech today.
4 years ago, I stated my goal is to make Idaho a place where we all can thrive and where our children and grandchildren choose to stay, and for those that left, choose to return. Expanding economic opportunities are providing jobs for our kids. And now we need to foster better jobs and higher incomes and a better quality of life that we can all be proud of.
And now, of course, we'll see, this is all governor's, his priorities that he laid out, what he would like to see happen. All of this has to be approved through the Idaho legislature. Let's go back to the state capitol once again. Our chief political reporter, Joe Paris, is now standing by with the leader of the Senate, Senate President Pro Tem Chuck Winder of Meridian. Joe?
Yeah, Senate Pro Tem Republican Chuck Winder here with us. And Senator, for you, what sticks out most about Governor Little's address?
Well, I think his continued commitment to education, to the needs of the people of Idaho, our students, but also to law enforcement. I think, you know, the vision of generating new jobs and creating those jobs to keep our kids here, that's been part of his vision over the last 4 years, and it's going to continue into the future.
We know that property tax is something that we hear a lot from Idahoans about. I know lawmakers hear a lot about property tax relief. What do you think that conversation looks like in the Idaho Senate this year?
Well, I think we're going to try and deal with the circuit breaker, get the people back on the circuit breaker that got kicked off last year, try and protect our most vulnerable, our seniors, people with the lowest incomes. But I also think we're going to make a real conscious effort to try and use some of the sales tax revenue to offset about $120 million or somewhere in that range of property tax at the local level. So I think we're going to do some good things. I think we have the opportunity. We got the governor's support. So I think we can get it done this year.
We know that economics-wise, the state of Idaho has been extremely successful in recent years, having over $1 billion in surplus. We heard from the governor about a targeted $1 billion investment into infrastructure, which in turn could help property rates. But what are your thoughts about $1 billion into those real needs right now?
Well, they are real needs. There are needs in public buildings, there are needs in local streets, there are needs in lots of different areas, water treatment. We've made historical investments in clean water, clean air, trying to get our schools up to date. We had a workforce group working on how we finance our schools publicly. I think you'll see some of that discussed at the legislature this time. And if we do those kind of things, we took the public defense off of the local tax burden last year of property tax. As we look at these things, they have helped the local governments meet their needs and reduce the need for property tax. So we'll continue to do that and help the people of Idaho.
We saw the governor invited some local school children here to watch the state of the state. Always an exciting day for the kids. But I mean, for you as a lawmaker, when you're seeing, you know, the very young people of Idaho and knowing that it's your responsibility to set up a successful future, I guess, what are you thinking during the address with those young people in the room, with everything said?
Well, I think, you know, they're our future. My grandkids are that age, so I think it's all part of the whole program of how do we make Idaho, you know, continue to be the greatest state in the country? How do we provide jobs, opportunities for our kids? And to me, that's why we're here.
All right, Senator Pro Tem Chuck Winder, thanks so much for joining us. Doug, we'll send it back to you here for a minute, and we'll be right back with some more interviews.
Joe, thank you very much. Yeah, once again, it seems that everybody is in agreement, whether Republican or Democrat, that education is going to be the top priority this year. Funding for education, teacher pay raises, perhaps raises for staff at schools around the state of Idaho, funding for broadband as well, for especially for rural areas, is something that came up in the budget proposal as well. Now we're going to go back to the other side of the aisle with Democrat and House Minority Leader, Representative Ilana Rubel of Boise, with our Andrew Bartline.
Yeah, that's right, Doug. Representative Rebel, you seem to be one of the more outspoken members of the House. You're always involved in these floor debates, but tell me what you heard today from the governor. What was something that stood out to you that you liked hearing?
Well, generally, I'm very happy with the majority's proposed budget. I'm really happy that they're true to the spirit of that House Bill 1 to put $330 million into public education and $80 million into higher ed. There's other points in the budget. I love the investment in our parks and in clean water, in law enforcement, in roads and bridges. Generally, I would say if we came in tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. and passed this proposed budget and then adjourned for the year, I would say it was one of the most successful sessions I've seen. But of course, that's not what we'll see happen.
Yeah, I imagine there's going to be a lot of debate back and forth of, are we actually going to get this done? Are we perhaps not on this end? What's something that you really want to get done? Because I know I can rely on you to probably look at the nitty-gritty of this budget at every item. What's a priority for you into this session?
The education operational piece is the most pivotal by far. Our teachers are making on average $18,000 less than in any state around us. Our classified personnel, I knocked the door of a woman who is a master's degree tutor for special ed kids. We give the district enough to pay her $10 an hour. Teachers are quitting the profession to become DoorDash drivers. We have got to put money in our public education system. That piece has got to go through. But we will be fighting to support it, and they will need Democratic votes. I guarantee the stuff in that budget is not passing without the Democrats' support. There will be a lot of Republicans fighting it tooth and nail.
I appreciate it. Representative Rebel, we're going to hear more from her later on today in our shows at 4, 5, and 6. But for now, Doug, we're going to toss it back over to you at the station.
Andrew, thank you very much. Interesting statement there from Representative Ilana Rubel that if this budget was proposed tomorrow at 9 a.m., they could pass it all through and get out in one day. Of course, that won't happen, that she also said. There will be fights in there. Also expecting a lot of discussion this year about school choice in the terms of what some people refer to as vouchers, whether or not parents should be able to use their public school tax money to send their kids to private schools. And Joe is now standing by with the brand new Lieutenant Governor, Scott Bedke. Joe?
Yes. Thank you, Doug. Yeah, standing by with Lieutenant Governor Scott Bedke. Lieutenant Governor, a different view for you this year. You were the House Speaker for a long time, now the Lieutenant Governor. What was the experience like for you on a personal level, just at a different seat?
Well, there's much less pressure, personally. I didn't have to worry about it being on time. All I had to do was be there. But I think the governor's remarks were very well received. I was watching everyone's facial expressions, and it's a good time to be an Idahoan. We have been doing things pretty close to right for a long time, and consequently, all of our growth. We've been discovered. But now we'll see. Now the give and take of the legislative process comes into play, and I'm looking forward to my new role in that process.
And we know that, of course, there's a lot of new faces in this building, but even though you're a new face in a new role, you're very familiar. And we can already see some of your influence on Governor Little's State of the State. He mentioned water rights, which I'm sure that something that you maybe suggested he include.
Well, I was not consulted, so I guess my work is done. He does it without being consulted. No, well, we all recognize we live in the arid West, and how we conserve our water resources will determine the future of our state. So we always got to be on top of that.
Outside of water, what issue do you think stuck out the most in Governor Little's speech that you say, all right, as his Lieutenant Governor, I'm excited to get to work on that?
Well, I think this bringing the positive business climate and having that roll into huge investments back into education, and then which makes Idaho a better place to work, which makes us able to make more investments. That's kind of what excites me, is that we're making major investments in the things that Idaho needs for the future. It's a great education system and adequate infrastructure, not only in our roads and bridges, but also back in our water infrastructure.
And for what it is, Governor Little made it clear that the working relationship between the governor and Lieutenant Governor's office is going to be much different going forward, a lot more amicable tone. For you, what are you most excited about getting to work with Governor Little?
Well, I am excited to be part of the team, and by the old school definition of team. And we'll be in the rooms, we'll discuss all of the things that we need to discuss, and then when the decision is made, I'll get behind that decision and make it work.
All right, I'm getting the wrap-up comment, so I'm going to do something unorthodox. I'm going to call Debbie Critchfield over. Superintendent Critchfield, come on over. Just come stand here with the Lieutenant Governor and I. Real quickly before we wrap up, at the State Superintendent of Public Instruction, what are your thoughts, real quickly?
I couldn't be more thrilled. 40 minutes of education talk. What more does a superintendent want to hear?
So it sounds like, it's time just to get to work now.
Absolutely. That's what I signed up for.
All right, well, alongside the Lieutenant Governor, Scott Bedke, the Superintendent of Instruction, Debbie Critchfield, Doug, we'll send it back to you for now, but of course we'll have full coverage with all the lawmakers and leaders starting first on the news at 4.
You left me exactly 3 seconds to say goodbye, and we'll see you in the news at 4.